Hello and welcome to the 10 Million in 10 Year podcast. I'm David, your host, and I'm joined by Emily today, and we're going to talk about how to win friends and influence people.
Yes.
Sounds like a book title.
Crazy.
It is.
Crazy. I mean, did we just steal a book title?
Before we get into the episode, I just want to say a big thank you to Tom Hardy for supporting this episode.
Thanks, Dave. I absolutely love what you're doing, and thank you for having me be a part of it.
Tell us a bit about this new sign.
Mate, it's all about the people. I've loved making the move and getting great results for our clients.
Wicked. Let's get into it. Before we get into the episode, I just want to say a big thanks to my mate Andrew here at Ewell Forest Motor Company for supporting the episode and the podcast.
We specialise in high-performance British, American and European cars. As a listener and a supporter of David Mouse podcast, I'd invite any listeners to get in touch, have a look at our website, www.efmc.co.nz. Come and see what we've got out here and we'll take care of you.
Have you read it?
I have started reading it when I was young because
Yeah.
my dad had the copy and I just couldn't get past a certain level of the book. But in general, I think it's a fantastic book.
Yeah, I wonder if it's one of those books that the title is enough to go off of in a way.
It is. Well, really, what the podcast is, I really want to ask you some questions.
Okay.
I would love to ask you, this is for all the players listening at home, a lot of these convos that we have, there's not a lot of structure to this. We didn't plan this in advance, so we're just going off whim at the moment. The first question that I have for you is, how do you start the process of building your network of friends, of business acquaintances, and just in general, building some great people to connect with, to talk to catch up with?
I am going to answer this in a very roundabout way. So I'm going to go back to 2001 when I left high school.
Mm-hmm.
I think way back then even I was curious about people. I was interested in meeting new people, whether it was through social events, whether it was through this was after high school, but like at university, or through like shared connections, or just I had an interest, and I think that's the first step, is having an interest, and you've either got that or you don't, I believe. And so where am I going with this?
No, I love this. I love where you're going. You're essentially saying people are interesting to you. You're curious, and so you'll ask questions around why are you blah 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 blah, and it gets people talking because it's a great conversation starter.
Yeah, I think the reason why I didn't answer it as if I'm my present self is that I don't think that really digs into it, because at the moment I find it really easy. I find it really comfortable and easy to meet new people, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I find that I've got, a couple of key components to my life. So IHF, which is a membership of around 1,000 people, give or take, aka a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're instantly got something in common. You're part of the club, so to speak. And so it's really easy to strike up a conversation with someone in there. And I think without that, like, where do you go? And so that's one part of this question, is where do you go physically to meet new people?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think meeting people online is maybe a different thing altogether, but one idea and suggestion is that idea of frequenting the same restaurants, cafes, coffee shops regularly, so you get to meet the staff, you get to know the regulars, and so it's just another method, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got it off a Grant Cardone book, actually. It was like, go to the nicest restaurant and just keep going there.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get to meet people through that. And I was like, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
I'd never contemplated that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that even with Elements, like at IHF there, like it's it doesn't take long before you start seeing the same people, because I think we are creatures of habit generally. We do tend to go to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one practical tool. is just keep going to the same food and beverage place.
I think another one is that, you mentioned in previous podcasts around going to run clubs or other sort of meetups where there's physical activity involved. So there's
I love that.
a common interest around keeping fit.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool thing that seems to be evolving is the number of run clubs around, both here and around the world. There's also things like Parkrun, which is a giant form of a run club. I also quite like the idea of developing friendships through exercise. So whether it's, say like you meet someone and like you seemingly have like common ground, you find out you're both runners, like, oh, should we go for a run sometime? Like
So
I went for a run last week with a new-ish friend, and it was cool. It was a great way to catch up and get a run in at the same time.
So good.
Yeah, so I think finding things that are of common interest exercise-wise is cool.
And another one would be maybe saunas, because it seems like sauna chats are a big...
Yeah. I mean, I've thrown that out there a little bit lately. It's just having, just having a few people in my network that I know go to the gym, I know quite like a sauna, and just putting it out there, right? Just sending out a message to, say, groups of people and being like, I'm going to the sauna tomorrow, 7 a.m. if anyone's around. So, I don't know, it's just throwing a certain volume of stuff out there and having take it or leave it type energy. That's another suggestion.
Yeah, that's good.
It's just to not like be too tied to the outcome, not being too fixated on if anyone shows up or not. Just be like, hey, I'm going to be doing this. If anyone wants to come along, sweet as. I like the new group that Brett has started, the Rogue Heroes. So that's very much a group of people that is interested in either going on adventures or, doing adventure races or going to the midwinter swim or, just doing stuff in general, right? So I'd like to think that through technology and through certain people taking like a leadership role in creating groups and doing stuff, it is helping to facilitate more of these in-person type events.
Absolutely.
Because I think there's a really radical difference between in-person and online. And I think people can spend a lot of time and maybe drain a lot of energy by sticking online, like especially when it comes to online chat groups and I don't know, personally, it's just not, it's very draining to me. I don't know enough about it to create any radical blanket statements, but I see them as not a great use of time.
Yeah, I just, for me, I find excessive messages very tiring.
Yes.
I don't enjoy them because it's just that pressure of, I haven't replied back to this person or that person. That's a lot of energy and with very little outcome, because when you meet with somebody, like if I caught up with my friends, I get so much energy from that. I feel amazing. I feel this community and a network. I don't feel that when I'm talking online at all, or even messaging a friend. But if I message a friend and we're catching up through, say, voice notes or even message, it is just not the same as catching up in person. And then seeing their face and their emotions, and if they're telling me a story, it's like, oh, wow, it's way more powerful than it is on message. It fills up the endorphins. I think it's important to have that in person.
I think so. I never used to understand why business people would like travel around the country or around the world, right? Like just to do face-to-face meetings. But I fully get that now, and I get like, I guess like the top tier, with business jets, I get that now. Like I fully understand the value of in-person versus remote. Night and day.
Well, I even feel like, say, for example, Zoom meetings. If we've had a Zoom meeting with a client and we're trying to talk them through about what they want specifically, Zoom meetings are very, it's definitely quick. Like it's to the point, it's straight, bam, bam, bam. But sometimes in-person conversations, just by creating a conversation, you can really start to understand what it is the client actually wants versus what they think that they want. And you can really start to develop more of a relationship. You understand their needs a little bit better just by being there. It's
Yeah.
very different. It's quite transactional when it's on Zoom or on the phone or.
I'd love to just pivot this whole podcast episode to communication.
Oh, I like that.
What's interesting, I
Yeah.
find that it is quite confusing for people now that there's so many different methods, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you know, how many methods are there? Email, text message, voice message, video call, in person. You know, it's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think why I get passionate about this is like there is definitely a time and a place for each one of those. It's funny on like LinkedIn when you see an occasional post about it's funny how certain things trigger certain people. Like I went down this rabbit hole recently about voice notes and how it really was pissing someone off. It's like it was just this massive like negative vortex of like blah blah blah, like I don't like them for this reason and that reason, and I was just like, oh, this is interesting, like just experiencing different people's point of view. Same with a calendar booking link. I saw a post, it was like, oh, these are just like fucking the worst thing ever, like so impersonal. And I was leaning into it. I was like, okay, like I'm not trying to be combative, but I'm really curious to learn more here. Like why do you believe this? And I sort of got an answer in the end, but it wasn't very logical. Yeah, interesting, right?
It is. And I think like I see the pros and cons in everything in terms of the voice notes. If it's from a good friend of mine, absolutely, because it's a good way of, it's so much easier to do that than by message. But if it's from, say, a certain person, you just look at it and you think, oh my God, what are they message? That's more of a drain, because maybe it's not going to be a good thing that they're going to say. They're probably going to come at you with something absolutely draining and annoying, and you just look at it and you just think, do I have the energy to listen to them complain about something? I think that has a negative connotation, because you just know it's going to be more drama ridden than it is informative, say. So there's that point. And I know when I've dealt with people, if I messaged them something, they could interpret it in a negative way. But if I send them a quick voice message and they can hear my tone, it can completely change the whole.
You sent me a voice message, didn't you, before we'd even met?
I know.
That was quite good. Another point of reference, right? Yeah.
Where it was fine
Yeah.
versus bad. Interesting about the booking link that they were triggered by that, because I would look at it as that person has given you the opportunity for you to find a time that works for you, versus the back and forth on what about Tuesday 3 p.m. Oh no, I can't, I've got this. What about Thursday 6 p.m. Oh no, I can't. Like that eliminates that annoying toing and froing if you don't have an EA.
Okay, so this is a really good conversation, right? So you're trying to book a meeting. It just depends on so many variables, but I'm probably inclined to suggest some times, and then if it doesn't work, if there's any back and forth, I'll just call them. I'll be like, hey, look, can we just figure out a time? Like, if you got your calendar there, let's just lock it in.
Wow.
Just to avoid any back and forth.
I love that. I love that.
I guess the reasoning for that person not liking the link was that it just felt impersonal, and it felt like you're just trying to make a quota, and like you're trying to just fill your sales funnel.
Oh,
which,
weird.
To be fair, like this whole, that sort of world does exist, right? Like, certain like sales people, and like it's like, hey, yeah, like let's jump on a call is the line, right?
Oh,
and so
okay.
I sort of get it. I sort of get the sentiment. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's something that I'm always trying to become better at communicating and using the right tools. I wouldn't say I've nailed it, but I feel like I'm getting better.
No, that's good. Like jumping on a call is probably such a powerful tool that people just don't want to do anymore. They'd rather just constantly email back and forth, where picking up and talking to the person can completely change the script and
Yeah.
just, the amount of times where, an email's come through and the nature of it sounds like the person's unhappy, but you pick up the phone and call them and it's like, nothing, there's no problem, and you
Yeah.
could have gone on this crazy internal dialogue of why are they not happy, did
Totally.
they not like the design,
Totally.
did they not like
Yeah.
my quote, or did they not like this, and it's like, no, they were absolutely fine, they
Yeah.
they were busy and they just replied back to your message.
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
by calling can really
Just cut to the chase.
cut to the chase.
Yeah, I had a conversation with someone recently that had a feisty email from a client, complaining, not happy with the service, sort of getting a bit like aggressive, and the person I was speaking to that received it, they just called them instantly, and magically enough, that person's not so big and brave anymore.
See.
So that's often a link I find as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know. I've got a lot to say about those keyboard warriors, because
Yeah.
the moment for me personally that I smell that, I am on the phone straight away. We're dealing with this right now.
Yeah. Totally.
Mhm.
Totally. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think there's any conclusive end to this, but just sort of being mindful, right? Like being mindful of people's time. And I think the one thing I will end on or note here is that you don't owe anyone anything. Like there's no obligation to reply to anything, to return a call. Like it's not like, I think some people get this weird sense of guilt if they don't reply or they don't respond. Like
And the same goes for nobody owes you anything.
100%,
They don't have to reply
100%.
to you. They don't have to give up their time because
Totally.
you want to catch up and talk business.
I totally accept that. Yeah. 100%.
And it goes both ways. I'm not saying you personally. I'm saying for
No,
other
but
people that
Everyone, right?
expect someone else's time
Yeah.
and expect them to drop it for them.
Yeah. So be mindful of people's time. That's probably the greatest thing.
Mhm.
I'm just going to keep on going.
No,
Like
go for it.
I'm meeting with a guy next week or the week after that has a outbound calling service. So cold calling on behalf of businesses. And I was just looking at a bit of his content, and he just dispelled why cold calling should be fearful, like why you should not have a fear of it. And I've heard a few different iterations on this, but it's really not a bad thing. Like it doesn't need to be scary, right? Like you just call someone and be like, hey, this is a sales call. Have you got 30 seconds? And then they've instantly like, hey, they know what it is. I'm not bamboozling them. I'm not beating around the bush. Hey, I work with companies like yours to sell photocopiers. We have, I'm not doing a very good example here, but it's just like being really direct, explaining why you're calling, and then just trying to sell that next step. And understanding that, you're going to have to go through a few of these to get to the next stage. But if you look at it in a mechanical context, it doesn't involve any emotion. And as long as you're professional and to the point, I don't think people are going to be angry. So communicate clearly, be concise, and don't beat around the bush. Makes sense.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah. So I think this will continue this theme. It's something that I am very passionate about.
I know it's definitely not a full stop. This will pop up again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nicely done.
Choose the right communication medium for the right job. Yeah. In person, email, text, voice message, etc. Social media.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you back in the next one.